Okay. So we're back after doing a retreat at the Dharma Center. We also had the Zoom participants as well. It's always interesting coming back home or leaving the retreat. Some people did the retreat at home on Zoom, but it's always interesting to come back and see where you're at, see how it feels. And sometimes the first few days are very different than the next few days after that. I think it's really worthwhile after a retreat to spend some time going over what you feel you maybe went through, or some of the larger events, if you will, within your body, mind, spirit. Some retreats are more difficult. Some retreats we open up unexpectedly in unexpected ways. I think it's good just to make note of all that after the retreat for your consideration. And it's also, I think there's a couple of new people here, but most of you have been coming to my classes for quite a while. And when we don't have a class for a few weeks, coming back to the class and just seeing where you've been for the last couple of weeks, were you able to maintain your practice? Were you able to maintain a connection with your meditation or a connection with the Dharma in your days? Did it slip away? Did it come back? What we're doing with these classes over such a period of time is just to encourage you to continue to do the work and to deepen the work. I can't do it for you, and the class is only meant as a touch point, or one of the main reasons of this class is a touch point for the practice. But the practice is yours. The practice is yours to do. So I hope in these times between that you find that the practice is ongoing, that the connection's ongoing. And there are going to be times where you lose it, you feel disconnected with the practice. That's okay. But what happens when you come back to it? And if you have enough, if you put enough time in, when you come back to it, you find that you're not that far away from it. As an acupuncturist, there's a thing I tell my patients if somebody has been struggling with some sort of pain for a while, and they have a few treatments, and then there's a significant change in the pain, and then I might not see them for a couple of weeks, and they'll come back and they'll say, well, last week my knee flared up again, or my shoulder flared up again. And the question I always ask is, how long was the flare up? Did it continue to be flared up, or did it kind of resolve on itself? And you know that the person is healing when they have the flare up, but the flare up resolves itself. If they have a a flare up and it just stays, then that's a different situation than a flare up that comes up and after a day, an afternoon, 3 days resolves and comes back to that perhaps pain-free point that they had been experiencing for a while. And it's like that with the practice. Is you're going to lose it. There's going to be days that are difficult. There's going to be days that are easy. But can you get back to that feeling of equilibrium on your own? Do you find that maybe if you've been not that involved with the work, pulled away by distracted, let's just call it distracted, do you find that at some point a thirst comes up as I want to get back. I want to get back to where I was. And if that's so, then you're on the path. But we have to be firmly, or what I'm trying to do is firmly establish ourselves on the path. Be clear that whatever you want to call it, be clear that you are moving towards that aspect of yourself. You're moving towards compassion, awareness, and wisdom. That's your goal, to open up to life, to open up to yourselves, to open up to compassion, to open up to awareness, to open up to wisdom. And when you get distracted for a day, a week, a month, does that voice come up? Does that thirst come up? I don't want to be doing this anymore, whatever the distraction is. And do you pay attention to it? You pay attention to it. This is not something that we easily just put up, lift up and put down, lift up and put down, lift up and put down. It takes intention. But it's also part of the practice, it's part of the path that we go through these periods. That we go through these periods. But to the best of our ability, it's important to keep that intention close to our hearts. And every time you sit, every time you read something pertaining to the path, every time you make a choice that moves you towards that, you're strengthening yourself. You really are. Even though one day is this and the other day is that. It's like we keep, we get distracted and it's like, oh, this is north. So do we keep coming back to the north, to the true north? And that's what we're doing with our practice. That's what we're doing with these classes. That's what we're hopefully doing with our lives, is we're establishing this. We're establishing this. We establish it every day. And even if it's not a good day, and even if you mess up, you get distracted, you get confused, you're not doing what you think you should be doing. Do you know where the north is? Do you know where the true north is? And just know that. Just know that. And you'll find your way back. This practice that we've been doing most of this year of exploring awareness, resting in awareness, is opening ourselves to the experience to know that this underlying expression, this underlying compassion, awareness, love, is really close at hand, is really close at hand. So if we establish that, no matter what we do or how we trip and fall, we know how to get back up. So when you're inspired to practice, to study, to understand, keep it going. Keep it going. It's really important. It's really important. It's so easy to say later. I'll do it later. But we need to do it now. But when we do it now, we don't necessarily have to do this now. We just have to connect now. Just connect with it. And the more you connect with it, the more you realize that it's always here. This is what we've been working with the last 6 months. We've been working over the years with the breath meditation, with the development of samatha and eventually insight. That's the foundation. That's the foundation. But those practices then open us up. But we have to make sure we don't forget. We have to make sure we keep moving towards. And so as we've come out of our retreat, as we've been away from classes for a few weeks, what happened? For those of you in retreat, for most of you, it was a pretty good retreat. And you touched a depth. So what is it that pulls us away from that? And that's the work that remains. What is it that pulls us away? What is it that distracts us? If you haven't been coming to classes for a while or a few weeks, where did you go? Where did you go in your heart? And it's not like you have to walk around like a Buddha all the time. It's not like you have to walk around an example of the perfections of the spiritual path all the time. In fact, don't ever do that. It's a trap. But we need to stay connected. We just need to stay connected. And that connection is that fast, isn't it? It's that fast. Because it's that close. So how do we move? How do you move? How do we move through the day where we feel connected? How do we do that? That's what you work with. That's what you work with. It's not this experience or that experience. It's something much more subtle and something much more close. So we keep just moving towards that. And we see what it is that trips us up. We all have those proclivities that just, they distract us. They distract us. And we forget. And then usually what happens is we forget. And then one day it's like, I really feel shitty. I am not happy. I am not a happy person. Okay. Okay. That's okay. But we know that experience. Contemplate it. And ever so gently, we go back to the direction that our heart is calling us in. And we do it every day. We develop it every day. Qualities of compassion, qualities of empathy, qualities of listening. I was watching an interview last night with, I'm not sure if I pronounce his name right, Gabor Mate. People know who I'm talking about. He's a doctor from, actually he's from Hungary, originally, but he's, I think he's based in Vancouver. He's written a number of books. But what struck me in this interview was just how well he listened. It was a very difficult subject he was talking with someone else. And he's pretty sure of where he stands on it all. And the other person was offering another view, another opinion. And from what I could see, he just listened. You know how you get in dialogues and you have this view and the other person has that view and they start to express their view. Can we just listen? Can we just listen? Or is our view so front and center that everything they say is just coming through that filter. That's a really good practice, isn't it? That's a really good practice. To let go of our idea, of our opinion in the moment and listen. Is one really good way to stay connected with our intention, isn't it? To stay open. Because ultimately, the practice is letting go of our preconceived ideas of what the world is, of who we are, what we think we are, and being open to what this experience is. So we practice that openness. We stay connected with our practice by, to the best of our ability, just being open. And it's a really difficult thing to do, isn't it? It's a really difficult thing to do, to remain open to each other. In this world that is on fire with violence, opinions, all manner of stuff. How do we practice? How do we stay open? We start with ourselves. We start with ourselves. How do we stay connected with the practice? How do we find our way back? We let go of idea and opinion about ourselves as well. And we move back in. We look back towards this awareness, this openness. And we do it internally, but we do it externally as well. Well, I don't have time to practice because I'm at work all day, or I'm doing this all day. Practice has a lot of different faces, doesn't it? Staying open, not getting distracted, or getting distracted and catching it. So that's what we're working with. And it's so important to keep working with it for ourselves and for others. And it's just a tiny little shift, isn't it? It's placing the cup down, placing the cup down. And listening to what's here.